The Cross Industries Chicago waiting room buzzed with palpable nervousness. Elena Rodriguez adjusted the hem of her black skirt for the 10th time, her only professional piece, and took a deep breath. 24 years old, business degree half abandoned, resume with more gaps than experience. But she needed this receptionist job. Mom's medical bills wouldn't wait for a miracle. That's when he walked in. Tall, broad shoulders that filled a cheap suit perfectly, brown hair slightly tousled as if he'd run his fingers through it. But it was his eyes that knocked her breathless, green like emeralds, with a mischievous glint that made her stomach do an unwelcome flip. Adrian Cross, though she didn't know that was his real name, felt the impact the moment their gazes locked. He should be focused on the mission, investigate the $2.5 million embezzlement as a simple janitor, invisible, unnoticed, professional. But this woman, she had something the socialites in his circle never possessed: authenticity, vulnerability masked by fierce determination. And when he smiled, that slightly wicked smile that disarmed anyone, she literally held her breath. "Lot of competition today," he commented, sitting in the chair beside her. "You're here for—" Elena tried to sound casual, but her voice came out a pitch higher. "Night janitor." The lie rolled easily off his tongue. "And you?" "Receptionist, or secretary, anything really." Her raw honesty caught him off guard. Adrian studied her delicate profile as she nervously watched the office door. "Why would someone like you need anything?" Elena laughed without humor. "You don't know me." Not yet, he thought, surprised by his own interest. "Adrian Martinez," he lied, extending his hand. "Elena Rodriguez." The touch of their hands was electric. Elena felt a current shoot up her arm and spread to her chest. Adrian, accustomed to calculated handshakes at business dinners, almost forgot to let go. "Elena Rodriguez?" A middle-aged woman appeared at the door. "You're next." Elena stood, legs shaky. "Good luck," Adrian murmured, and she had to control herself not to look back. The interview was a blur. Elena answered questions on autopilot while her mind was trapped in those green eyes and the smile that promised trouble. She got the job, basic salary, but it was what she needed. When she came out, Adrian was still there. "How'd it go?" he asked, genuinely interested. "Got it." Her smile lit up her entire face. "What about you?" "Haven't been called yet. Night janitor isn't a priority." Another lie. He had a meeting scheduled with the director in 5 minutes, but didn't want this moment to end. "Adrian Martinez?" The same woman appeared again. Elena waved timidly. "See you around then. We start the same day." Watching her leave was like losing the sun. 3 days later, Elena was at the reception desk, organizing protocols, when she felt that familiar presence. She looked up, and there he was. Dark jeans, simple t-shirt, a cleaning cart beside him. "Hey, colleague," Adrian said, that mischievous smile intact. "Hi." Elena felt her face heat up. "How's it going?" "Quiet. Night work has its advantages. It's more peaceful. I can think better." He leaned on the counter, getting closer. "And you? Liking it?" "I'm learning. The people here are interesting." "Interesting how?" Elena lowered her voice. "The regional manager, Mr. Morales, is kind of weird. Always seems to be watching, you know? And some accounts don't add up." Adrian stiffened imperceptibly. "Bingo. What kind of accounts?" "Oh, I don't know. It's not really my business. I just handle reception, but—" She glanced around nervously. "Some employee payments seem off, lower than they should be." Son of a bitch, Adrian thought. Morales was skimming from employee wages too. "Maybe you're just not used to corporate accounting yet," he said carefully. "Maybe." Elena bit her lip, a gesture that made Adrian's chest tighten. "Sorry, I shouldn't be gossiping on my first week." "Your secret safe with me." The way he said it, low and intimate, made her pulse quicken. Their eyes locked again, and this time neither looked away. The air between them crackled with tension that had nothing to do with corporate conspiracies and everything to do with the undeniable pull drawing them together. "Elena!" Mr. Morales's sharp voice cut through the moment like a blade. "Personal conversations on company time?" She jumped, face flushing. "Sorry, sir, I was just—" "Getting back to work," Adrian finished smoothly, straightening up. "I'll clean this area later tonight. Don't want to disturb the daytime staff." Morales looked between them suspiciously before stalking away. "Thanks," Elena whispered. "Any time." Adrian winked and pushed his card away, but not before adding, "I'm usually here around 9. Building gets pretty quiet then." The invitation was subtle but unmistakable. Elena's heart hammered as she watched him disappear down the hallway, already counting the hours until 9 o'clock. What she didn't know was that Adrian Cross, billionaire CEO, was counting too. And for the first time in his life, it had nothing to do with money. Elena glanced at the clock for the 100th time, 8:47 p.m. The office had emptied an hour ago, leaving only the hum of computers and the distant sound of elevator music. She'd volunteered for overtime, desperately needed the extra pay, but tonight had a different motivation entirely. Her heart jumped when she heard the soft squeak of wheels on marble. Adrian appeared around the corner, pushing his cart, and the sight of him made her mouth go dry. There was something about the way he moved, confident, purposeful, that didn't match his janitor cover story. "Working late again?" he asked, that devastating smile spreading across his face. "Need the overtime." Elena tried to sound casual, but her voice betrayed her nervousness. "What's your excuse?" "Same building, different shift." Adrian parked his cart and moved closer to her desk. "But I have to admit, the company's gotten much better lately." The way he looked at her, like she was the only woman in the world, made Elena's skin tingle. "Are you always this smooth with the office staff?" "Only the ones who make me forget what I'm supposed to be doing." The admission hung between them, loaded with meaning. Elena felt her cheeks burn. "And what are you supposed to be doing?" "Investigating financial fraud, not fantasizing about kissing you senseless," Adrian thought. "Cleaning, very boring stuff." "I don't know." Elena stood up, pretending to stretch, but really wanting to be closer to him. "I bet you see all kinds of interesting things working nights. People leave all sorts of secrets lying around." Adrian's pulse quickened. Was she fishing for information or just making conversation? What kind of secrets? Financial reports left on desks, private emails still open. Elena moved around the desk, bringing her within arm's reach of him. "Though I suppose a janitor wouldn't be interested in corporate drama." The way she said janitor, with just a hint of skepticism, made Adrian wonder if his cover was slipping. "You'd be surprised what catches my attention." Their eyes locked, and suddenly the conversation wasn't about work anymore. The tension that had been building for 3 days crackled between them like electricity. "Elena." Adrian's voice was rough with barely controlled desire. "Yes?" She stepped closer, close enough to smell his cologne. Expensive, definitely not something a janitor could afford. "This is probably a bad idea." Probably, but she didn't step back. Adrian's hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb tracing her jawline. "I can't stop thinking about you." "Then don't." The words escaped before Elena could stop them. The kiss was inevitable, explosive. Adrian's mouth crashed against hers with 3 days' worth of pent-up hunger. Elena melted into him, hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like mint and promises, like everything she'd been missing without knowing it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian pressed his forehead against hers. "Fuck, Elena." "I know." Her voice was shaky. "This is crazy. Completely insane." But his arms tightened around her waist. "We work together. It's inappropriate. I could get fired." Even as she listed the reasons they should stop, Elena's hands were tracing the hard muscles of his chest through his shirt. "Mr. Morales is an ass anyway." Adrian's lips found the sensitive spot behind her ear, making her gasp. "You deserve so much better than this place." Something in his tone made Elena pull back slightly. "What do you mean?" "Shit," Adrian mentally kicked himself. "Just, you're smart, talented. You could be running your own company instead of answering phones for jerks like Morales." "Right, because janitors are known for their business insights." There was that skeptical note again. Before Adrian could respond, the elevator dinged. They sprang apart like teenagers caught by parents, Elena smoothing her hair while Adrian grabbed a cleaning spray from his cart. "Evening, folks." The security guard nodded as he made his rounds. "Working late?" "Just finishing up," Elena managed, proud that her voice sounded almost normal. After the guard left, the spell was partially broken. Elena gathered her things, hyper-aware of Adrian's eyes following her every movement. "Elena," he caught her hand as she passed, "have dinner with me tomorrow." "Somewhere that's not here." "Adrian, I don't think—" "Please." The simple word held more vulnerability than she'd expected from someone so confident. "One dinner. If it's a disaster, we'll pretend this never happened." Elena looked into those green eyes and felt her resolve crumble. "Okay, one dinner. I'll pick you up at 7. You don't know where I live." Adrian's smile turned wicked. "I'm very resourceful." As Elena left the building, she couldn't shake the feeling that Adrian Martinez was full of secrets. The expensive cologne, the business knowledge, the way he carried himself. Nothing about him screamed janitor. But when she touched her lips, still tingling from his kiss, she found she didn't care. Some mysteries were worth the risk. What she didn't know was that Adrian Cross was already planning their date, debating between his usual 5-star restaurants and somewhere more appropriate for a billionaire pretending to be broke. The lie was getting more complicated by the hour, and he was falling harder by the minute. Elena changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple black dress that hugged her curves without being too obvious. She couldn't afford anything new, but this one made her feel confident. At exactly 7 p.m., her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I'm outside, blue Honda. A." She looked out her tiny apartment window and frowned. The car looked new, expensive, way too expensive for a janitor's salary. But before she could overthink it, Adrian was at her door, looking devastatingly handsome in dark jeans and a button-down that probably cost more than her rent. "You look incredible," he said, his gaze traveling over her appreciatively. "Thank you. Nice car for someone who cleans floors for a living." Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. "I save my money, have simple tastes." Liar, Elena thought, but let it slide. Everyone had secrets. He took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a neighborhood she'd never been to. Intimate lighting, real tablecloths, prices that made her mentally calculate how many hours of overtime each entree cost. When Adrian ordered wine without looking at the price, Elena's suspicions deepened. "So," she said over appetizers, "tell me about this dream of being an entrepreneur. What kind of business?" Adrian nearly choked on his wine. "Consulting, business optimization, streamlining operations, that sort of thing." "Interesting. And working as a janitor teaches you about operations? How exactly?" Her direct challenge caught him off guard. Most people accepted his lies at face value. "You see everything from the ground up, how inefficient processes really are, where money gets wasted, which employees actually work, and which ones just look busy." Despite herself, Elena was impressed. "That's actually brilliant. Unconventional, but brilliant. What about you? Still dreaming of finishing that business degree?" Elena's face fell. "Dreams are expensive. Mom's cancer treatment comes first." The pain in her voice hit Adrian like a physical blow. Here he was, worth $1.5 billion, watching the woman he was falling for sacrifice her future for medical bills he could pay with pocket change. "I'm sorry. That must be incredibly hard." "Some days are worse than others." Elena pushed food around her plate. "Today was bad. Insurance denied coverage for a new treatment protocol. Experimental, they said. Too risky." "How much?" The question slipped out before Adrian could stop it. "What?" "Nothing. Is there a way to appeal?" Elena studied his face. "Why do you care so much? We barely know each other." "Because I'm falling in love with you," Adrian thought. "Because you matter, more than you know." The intensity in his voice made Elena's breath catch. "Adrian, dance with me." "There's no music." He stood and extended his hand anyway. "There's always music." Elena let him pull her up, and suddenly they were swaying together between the tables, lost in their own world. Other diners smiled at the romantic scene, but Elena only saw Adrian's eyes, dark with desire and something deeper. "This is crazy," she whispered against his chest. "The best things usually are." When they got back to her apartment building, Elena knew she should say goodnight and go upstairs. Instead, she found herself inviting him up for coffee. The tiny space suddenly felt microscopic with Adrian in it. He moved around carefully, taking in the secondhand furniture, the medical bills stacked on the counter, the photos of Elena with a woman who had her same warm smile but tired eyes. "Your mother's beautiful," he said softly. "She was. This was taken before," Elena's voice broke. Adrian crossed to her in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. "Hey, it's okay." "No, it's not." The words tumbled out between tears. "She's dying, and I can't save her, and I can't even afford to try. And I'm wasting time with a man I barely know when I should be working more hours or figuring out how to." Elena silenced her with a kiss, desperate and hungry. Elena kissed him back with equal fervor, pouring all her frustration and fear and desperate need into the connection between them. "I want you," she gasped against his lips. "Elena, are you sure? You're emotional, and I don't want you to." "I'm sure." She pulled back to look at him. "I'm tired of being careful, tired of putting everything on hold. I want this. I want you." Adrian's control snapped. He kissed her again, backing her toward the couch, hands roaming over her curves. Elena tugged at his shirt, desperate to feel skin against skin. They made love with an urgency that surprised them both, desperate, passionate, like they were trying to memorize each other. Afterward, Elena lay curled against Adrian's chest, tracing patterns on his skin. "Stay," she whispered. "I shouldn't. Please." Adrian looked down at her face, soft with satisfaction and trust, and knew he was completely lost. Okay. As Elena drifted off to sleep, Adrian stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. Tomorrow, he had a board meeting about the Barcelona investigation. He was supposed to be focused on catching embezzlers, not falling in love with one of their victims. But feeling Elena's heartbeat against his chest, Adrian made a decision that would change everything. The investigation could wait. This woman in his arms was more important than any corporate conspiracy. What he didn't know was that across town, Mr. Morales was deleting files and preparing to frame the new receptionist for his own crimes. The trap was already set. Adrian just didn't know Elena was walking into it. Elena woke to the smell of coffee and something that smelled suspiciously like expensive bacon. She padded to the kitchen in Adrian's shirt, finding him at her tiny stove, looking completely at home despite the cramped space. "Where did you get all this?" she asked, gesturing at the spread that definitely hadn't been in her nearly empty fridge last night. "Corner store was open early. Thought you might be hungry." Another lie. He'd had his assistant deliver groceries at 6 a.m., spinning some story about a charity event. "Adrian, this must have cost—" "Don't." He pulled her into his arms, silencing her protests with a kiss that made her forget everything else. "Let me take care of you, just this once." The way he said it, like he was asking for permission to give her the world, made Elena's heart clench. "You don't have to. I want to." They ate breakfast like lovers who'd been together for years instead of hours. Adrian couldn't keep his hands off her, constantly touching her arm, stroking her hair, pulling her onto his lap. Elena had never felt so cherished, so completely desired. "I have to go to work," she said reluctantly. "Call in sick." "I can't afford to." "Then I'll call in sick too. We'll spend the day together." Elena laughed. "You're crazy." "About you? Absolutely." The possessive note in his voice sent heat pooling low in her belly. "Adrian, say yes." She should say no, should be responsible, should remember that she barely knew this man who was turning her world upside down. Instead, she heard herself saying, yes. They spent the day wrapped around each other, talking and laughing and making love with an intensity that left them both breathless. Adrian told her about his childhood dreams of changing the world through business. Elena shared her plans for the consulting firm she'd never be able to start. "Why consulting?" Adrian asked, tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "I see inefficiencies everywhere. Like at Cross Industries, the way Morales manages things, the outdated systems, the way good employees get overlooked while incompetent ones get promoted. Elena's voice grew passionate. I could fix it. I know I could, if anyone would listen to someone like me. Adrian's chest tightened with pride and guilt. She was brilliant, wasted in that reception desk, and he had the power to give her everything she wanted, but not without revealing who he really was. Someone will listen eventually, he said carefully. Right, because the business world is famous for giving chances to broke receptionists. You're not just a receptionist, you're extraordinary. Elena turned in his arms, studying his face. You really believe that? I know it. The certainty in his voice made her breath catch. How can you be so sure? You've known me for 4 days. Some things you just know. Adrian's thumb traced her lower lip. Like how I knew I wanted you the moment you walked into that waiting room. Like how I know I'm falling in love with you. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Adrian! Too fast? He looked suddenly vulnerable, this confident man who seemed to have all the answers. No, it's just... She took a shaky breath. I'm falling too, and it terrifies me. Why? Because I can't afford to lose my focus. My mom needs me to be strong, to work every hour I can, to fight for her treatment. I can't get distracted by what? By being happy? By letting someone care about you? By falling for a man I barely know, who probably has more secrets than the CIA? Adrian's blood chilled. What do you mean? Elena sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. Come on, Adrian. The expensive clothes, the car, the way you talk about business like you've actually run companies instead of just cleaned their buildings. You're not who you pretend to be. For a moment, Adrian considered telling her everything. But the truth would ruin them, before they'd even had a chance to begin. We all have parts of ourselves we keep hidden, he said finally. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you right now. Elena searched his face, seeing the walls go up in real time. Why? What are you hiding that's so terrible? It's not terrible. It's just complicated. Everything's complicated, Adrian. That doesn't mean we can't trust each other. The irony of her words was like a knife to his chest. Here she was, offering him her trust, her heart, her body, and he was lying to her face about everything. Can we just have this? He asked, pulling her back into his arms. Can we have today without questions or complications? Just us? Elena wanted to push, to demand answers, but the desperate edge to his voice stopped her. Whatever Adrian was hiding, it was eating him alive. Okay, she whispered, just us. They made love again, slow and tender this time, like they were trying to memorize each other. Afterward, Elena fell asleep in his arms, but Adrian lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, he'd have to return to being CEO Adrian Cross. Tomorrow, he'd have to investigate the company where the woman he loved worked, knowing that what he found might destroy her job, her income, her ability to care for her dying mother. Tomorrow, he'd have to choose between justice and love, but tonight, she was his, and he was drowning in the sweetest kind of destruction. 2 weeks into their secret relationship, Adrian was a man obsessed. He found excuses to stay later at the office, timing his cleaning to Elena's overtime shifts. Their stolen moments became the highlight of his days. Passionate encounters in empty conference rooms, whispered conversations over shared takeout, the way Elena's face lit up when she saw him coming down the hallway. You're going to get us both fired, Elena laughed as Adrian cornered her in the supply closet, his hands already roaming over her curves. Worth it, he growled against her neck, making her gasp. Adrian, someone could... He silenced her with a kiss that made her forget every rational thought. This was madness, this consuming need for each other that grew stronger instead of fading. Elena had never felt anything like it. I think about you every second, Adrian confessed, forehead pressed against hers. I can barely concentrate on work. Because your real work involves board meetings and million-dollar decisions, his conscience reminded him. The investigation into Morales had stalled completely. Adrian kept finding reasons to delay, to focus on Elena instead of corporate fraud. "I know the feeling," Elena whispered. "Yesterday, I accidentally transferred a call to the wrong department 3 times because I was remembering what you did to me the night before." Adrian's eyes darkened. "What exactly were you remembering?" "Wouldn't you like to know?" He was reaching for her again when Elena's phone buzzed. Her face immediately changed as she read the message. "What is it?" Adrian asked. "Mom's doctor. They want to try a new treatment, but—" Elena's voice broke. "It's experimental. Insurance won't cover it. $50,000. Adrian's heart clenched. $50,000. Pocket change to him, but a fortune to Elena. "Baby, Don't say it." Elena's voice was sharp. "Don't you dare offer to help. This isn't your problem." "What if I want it to be my problem?" Elena stared at him. "Adrian, we've been together 2 weeks. You're a janitor. Even if you wanted to help, you couldn't afford to." The words hit like bullets. Adrian felt the lie choking him, but he couldn't tell her the truth. Not when she was already overwhelmed. "There has to be another way," he said helplessly. "Yeah, I pick up more shifts, apply for a second job, maybe sell." Elena looked around the tiny closet. "I don't even have anything worth selling." That evening, Adrian sat in his penthouse apartment, staring at his phone. One call to his accountant, and Elena's mother could have the best treatment available. Hell, he could buy the entire hospital if it would help. But Elena would never forgive him for the deception. His phone rang. Elena calling from her apartment. "Hey, beautiful. Adrian, I need to tell you something." Her voice was strained. "I applied for a promotion today. Executive assistant to Mr. Morrison. It pays almost double." Adrian's blood chilled. Morrison was dirty, part of Morales' scheme. Putting Elena that close to him would be dangerous. "That's great," he managed. "I also applied for weekend work at a call center, and I'm going to ask Morales if I can work some night shifts answering the emergency line." "Elena, you can't work yourself to death." "Watch me." Her voice was fierce. "I won't lose her, Adrian. I can't." "I know, baby. I know. I might not have as much time for us." The fear in her voice broke his heart. "Are you trying to break up with me?" "No, God, no. It's just, I need you to understand. My mom comes first. She has to." "I understand. Do you? Because you matter to me, Adrian, more than I ever expected. But I can't lose focus now." "Then don't. We'll figure this out together." "How? You can't help me financially. I can't cut back on work hours. And we're already sneaking around like teenagers. How do we make this work?" Adrian closed his eyes. "Because I love you." The words hung in the air between them. It was the first time either had said it directly. "Adrian, I love you, Elena. And when you love someone, you find a way. I love you too." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That's what makes this so scary. We're going to get through this. Your mom is going to be okay, and we're going to be okay. Promise me." "I promise." But as Adrian hung up the phone, he knew he was making promises he might not be able to keep. Tomorrow, he had a board meeting where the directors would demand answers about the Barcelona investigation. Tomorrow, he'd have to choose between his company and the woman he loved. And tomorrow, Elena would find out that Mr. Morrison wanted to see her about the executive assistant position, a job that would put her directly in the crosshairs of a corporate conspiracy she knew nothing about. The lies were closing in from all sides, and Adrian was running out of time to protect the woman who had become his entire world. In her tiny apartment, Elena stared at the medical bills spread across her kitchen table and tried to ignore the voice in her head that whispered Adrian was hiding something big. She was falling harder for him every day, but love built on secrets couldn't last, could it? Elena's hands shook as she opened the eviction notice. 30 days. She'd been so focused on her mother's medical bills that she'd fallen behind on rent. The call center job had fallen through, and the emergency line shifts paid barely anything. Her phone rang. The hospital. "Miss Rodriguez, I'm calling about your mother's treatment. We need to move quickly if we're going to start the experimental protocol. We'll need payment authorization by Friday. Friday? 3 days away." Elena sank onto her couch, the eviction notice crumpling in her fist. I understand. I'll have an answer by then. She hung up and immediately called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. Hey, beautiful. How did the interview with Morrison go? Good, I think. He said he'd let me know tomorrow. Elena tried to keep the desperation out of her voice. Adrian, can you come over? I need to see you. Something in her tone made Adrian's chest tighten. I'll be right there. He found her crying on her couch, surrounded by bills and notices. Without a word, he pulled her into his arms. Tell me, he said simply. Everything's falling apart. The words poured out between sobs. I'm getting evicted. Mom needs an answer about treatment by Friday, and I don't know what to do anymore. Adrian's jaw clenched. $50,000 for treatment, probably another few thousand for the rent. Nothing to him, everything to her. Elena, let me help. With what money? She pulled back to look at him. You're a janitor, Adrian. You can barely afford your own bills. The lie sat like poison in his throat. I have some savings. Stop. Elena stood up, pacing. Just stop. I can't take charity from my boyfriend who I've known for 3 weeks. It's not charity. It's love. Love doesn't pay medical bills. What if it could? Elena stopped pacing. What do you mean? Adrian's heart hammered. He was so close to telling her everything. What if there was a way? What if Elena's phone rang. Morrison's name appeared on the screen. I have to take this, she answered with false brightness. Mr. Morrison? Yes, thank you for calling back. Adrian watched her face change from hope to confusion to horror. I'm sorry, what? Suspended? I don't understand. Yes, sir, I'll be there first thing Monday. She hung up, face white. What happened? There's been a discrepancy in the petty cash fund, $500 missing. Morrison says the security cameras show me at the cash box yesterday, and I'm suspended pending investigation. Adrian's blood turned to ice. That's impossible. I know it's impossible. I've never stolen anything in my life. Elena's voice cracked. But who's going to believe me? A desperate receptionist with a sick mother versus security footage? We'll fight this. Get a lawyer. With what money, Adrian? I can't even pay my rent. Adrian stood up, rage building in his chest. Morales. This reeked of Morales trying to cover his tracks by framing Elena. The bastard had picked the perfect scapegoat, someone desperate enough to look guilty, powerless enough to be destroyed. There has to be something. There is. Elena's voice went quiet. Morrison said if I confess and agree to pay back the money, he'll let me resign instead of being fired. I could get another job somewhere else. You're not confessing to something you didn't do. $500 to make this go away versus being blacklisted from every office in the city? It's not really a choice. Adrian grabbed her shoulders. Elena, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. I know you didn't take that money. How could you possibly know that? Because I know who really did, Adrian thought. Because I know you. Elena's eyes filled with tears. It doesn't matter what you know. It matters what I can prove, and I can't prove anything. She sank back onto the couch, defeated. I'm going to lose everything. My job, my apartment, my mom. No. Adrian knelt in front of her. I won't let that happen. How are you going to stop it? What are you going to do, Adrian? Clean their floors extra hard until they change their minds? The sarcasm in her voice cut deep because it highlighted exactly how powerless his fake identity made him. He had the resources to destroy Morales, to save Elena's job, to pay for her mother's treatment 10 times over. But Adrian Martinez, night janitor, could do nothing. I'll figure something out. Don't make promises you can't keep. Elena wiped her eyes. I need to be realistic. I'll confess to Morrison Monday, pay back the money somehow, and start looking for another job. No. Adrian? I said no. His voice was hard with determination. Trust me. Give me until Monday. Don't confess to anything until Monday. Elena studied his face, seeing something there she couldn't identify. What aren't you telling me? Everything, Adrian thought. Just trust me. Can you do that? Elena wanted to say no, wanted to demand answers about where a janitor would get the confidence to promise solutions to problems that required serious money and influence. But looking into his eyes, those green eyes that had become her anchor in the storm, she found herself nodding. "Okay, until Monday." Adrian kissed her forehead. "I have to go handle something, but I'll be back tonight, okay?" After he left, Elena sat alone with the eviction notice and the medical bills, wondering how her life had gotten so completely out of control, and wondering why the man she loved always seemed to know more than he was saying. Across town, Adrian was making phone calls that would change everything. By Monday morning, Morales would be finished. The question was whether Elena would forgive him for the nuclear bomb he was about to drop on both their lives. Adrian spent the weekend in war mode. Saturday morning found him in his real office, the executive floor Elena had never seen, surrounded by lawyers, forensic accountants, and security footage that would destroy Morales completely. "Sir, we have everything we need," his head of security reported. "Morales has been skimming employee wages, inflating vendor costs, and doctoring expense reports for 18 months. The petty cash setup is textbook. Frame the new employee to cover the trail. And Elena Rodriguez? Clean as a whistle. The timestamp on the security footage was altered. Miss Rodriguez was at lunch when the cash was taken." Adrian stared at the evidence spread across his conference table. He had enough to send Morales to prison and clear Elena completely. Adrian spent the weekend in war mode. Saturday morning found him in his real office, the executive floor Elena had never seen, surrounded by lawyers, forensic accountants, and security footage that would destroy Morales completely. "Sir, we have everything we need," his head of security reported. "Morales has been skimming employee wages, inflating vendor costs, and doctoring expense reports for 18 months. The petty cash setup is textbook. Frame the new employee to cover the trail. And Elena Rodriguez? Clean as a whistle. The timestamp on the security footage was altered. Miss Rodriguez was at lunch when the cash was taken." Adrian stared at the evidence spread across his conference table. He had enough to send Morales to prison and clear Elena completely. But revealing it would expose his own investigation and his lies. His phone buzzed. "Elena, missing you. Everything feels impossible without you here." Adrian's chest tightened. She trusted him to fix this, and he would, even if it cost him everything. Monday morning, Elena stood outside Morrison's office, rehearsing her confession. The words tasted like poison, but what choice did she have? Adrian's promise echoed in her mind, but love couldn't work miracles. "Miss Rodriguez?" Morrison's secretary looked nervous. "Mr. Morrison is unavailable. There's been a development." "What kind of development?" Before the secretary could answer, elevator doors opened and Adrian stepped out. But this wasn't her Adrian in janitor clothes. This Adrian wore a suit that probably cost more than her car, moved with the confidence of someone who owned the world, and was followed by serious-looking people in expensive clothes. Elena's heart stopped. "Miss Rodriguez," Adrian said formally, his voice completely different. "Could we speak privately?" Elena stared at him like he was a stranger, because he was. "Who are you?" "My name is Adrian Cross. I'm the CEO of Cross Industries." The words hit Elena like physical blows. CEO, Cross Industries, the company where she answered phones, where he'd pretended to be a janitor, where he'd been lying to her for weeks. "No," the word came out as a whisper. "Elena, let me explain." "You're the CEO?" Her voice was getting louder, attracting attention from other employees. "You're the fucking CEO, and you let me worry about $500? You watched me cry about my mother's medical bills while you're worth, what, millions?" "Billions," Adrian said quietly. Elena's face went white. "Billions. Elena, please. You watched me skip meals to save money. You watched me panic about rent. You watched me offer to confess to theft I didn't commit, and you said nothing? I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" Elena's voice cracked. "From what? From knowing that my boyfriend could solve every problem in my life with pocket change?" Other employees were openly staring now. Adrian's lawyers shifted uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should move this to my office," Adrian suggested. "Your office?" Elena laughed bitterly. "Of course you have an office. What else have you been lying about? Is Adrian Martinez even a real person, or was I just fucking a ghost?" "Don't." Adrian's voice went hard. "What happened between us was real." "Real?" Elena stepped closer, fury radiating from her. "You want to know what's real? Real is me working double shifts while you played dress-up. Real is me choosing between groceries and medicine while you probably spent more on one dinner than I make in a month. Real is me falling in love with someone who doesn't exist. I exist, Elena. Everything I felt for you was real. You felt sorry for me." Poor little receptionist, so grateful for scraps of attention from the big, important CEO slumming it with the help. "That's not true, isn't it?" Tears were streaming down Elena's face now. "Was I some kind of experiment? See how long you could fool the stupid girl? Did you laugh about it with your rich friends?" "Elena, stop. You're not listening." "I'm done listening." Elena yanked off the simple necklace he'd bought her, probably cost nothing to him, everything to her, and threw it at his feet. "I quit. I quit this job. I quit whatever sick game you're playing, and I quit you." She turned to leave, but Adrian caught her arm. "Don't touch me." Her voice was ice. "Don't ever touch me again." "Elena, please. The charges against you have been dropped. Morales is being arrested as we speak. Your job is safe, and I've established a fund to cover your mother's treatment." Elena spun around, eyes blazing. "You think your money fixes this? You think paying my mother's bills makes up for weeks of lies? I was trying to help." "No, you were trying to control. You were playing God with my life while I was falling apart. How long were you planning to keep this up? Were you ever going to tell me the truth?" Adrian's silence was answer enough. "That's what I thought." Elena's voice broke completely. "I loved you. I loved Adrian Martinez, the man who understood what it was like to struggle, who cared about people like me. But you're just another rich asshole who thinks money can buy anything, including forgiveness. Elena, stay away from me. Stay away from my mother. Keep your guilt money. I'll find another way." Elena walked to the elevator on shaking legs, aware that dozens of employees were watching her dramatic exit. She didn't care. Let them stare. Let them gossip. None of it mattered anymore. As the elevator doors closed, she saw Adrian standing frozen in the hallway, looking like she'd ripped his heart out. Good. Now he knew how it felt. But as Elena fled the building where she'd fallen in love with a lie, she couldn't stop the voice in her head that whispered she might have just made the biggest mistake of her life. Because real or not, Adrian Cross had looked at her like she was his entire world. And now, she'd never know if that part had been real too. Elena made it 3 blocks before she had to stop and throw up in an alley. The betrayal hit her in waves. Every tender moment, every whispered confession, every time she'd worried about money while he'd watched with billions in his bank account. Her phone buzzed constantly, Adrian calling. She turned it off. At home, Elena stared at the eviction notice and medical bills spread across her table. Part of her wanted to tear them up and scream. Another part wanted to call Adrian back and accept his money, his help, his guilty conscience making everything easier. Instead, she did what she'd always done. She survived. Elena spent the day applying for every job she could find, from retail to restaurants to night cleaning, anything that would hire someone who just quit without notice. She called the hospital and asked for more time on her mother's treatment decision. "I need another week," she told the billing coordinator. "Ms. Rodriguez, we've already extended. 1 more week, please." When Adrian's assistant called that afternoon, Elena almost didn't answer the unknown number. "Miss Rodriguez, this is Sarah Chen, Mr. Cross's assistant. He asked me to inform you that your final paycheck includes 4 weeks severance and tell Mr. Cross he can shove his severance up his ass." Elena hung up and immediately felt terrible. Sarah hadn't done anything wrong. Her phone rang again. Elena answered without looking. "Look, Sarah, I'm sorry I was rude. It's me." Adrian's voice made her chest tighten. Elena almost hung up. "How did you get this number? I blocked you." "Different phone. Elena, please, just listen." "No. The charges against you have been officially dropped. Morales has been arrested. The security footage was tampered with, and I don't care. Your mother's treatment is none of your business. Elena, I love you." The words hit like a punch to the gut. "No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the poor girl you could save, the charity case that made you feel good about yourself. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me honestly, would you have looked twice at me if I'd been in that waiting room wearing designer clothes and talking about my trust fund?" Adrian's silence stretched too long. "That's what I thought," Elena said, her heart breaking all over again. "Elena, wait." She hung up and turned off the phone entirely. 3 days later, Elena was working her first shift at Tonia's Diner when she saw it on the break room TV. Adrian, on the news, standing outside Cross Industries headquarters. "Mr. Cross, is it true you've restructured the entire European compensation system?" a reporter asked. "Cross Industries has implemented immediate pay increases for all support staff, established an employee hardship fund, and created educational assistance programs," Adrian said, looking tired and hollow. "Too many good people have suffered while ineffective management lined their own pockets. Sources say this was prompted by a personal investigation you conducted while undercover as a janitor. Can you comment?" Elena's breath caught. He'd actually done it, changed the entire system. "Sometimes you have to see problems from the ground up to understand how to fix them," Adrian said. "Our employees deserve better. They've always deserved better." The reporter pressed on. "Is it true this investigation was connected to your relationship with former employee Elena Rodriguez?" Elena's blood ran cold seeing her name on television. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Miss Rodriguez is an exceptional woman who was treated shamefully by this company's previous management. Any connection between my professional decisions and my personal life is irrelevant. The right thing to do was always the right thing to do." "Mr. Cross, where is your relationship with Miss Rodriguez now?" "Miss Rodriguez deserves privacy and respect. Thank you." Adrian walked away without another word, leaving the reporters shouting questions. Elena stared at the screen, her chest tight. He'd protected her. Even angry and hurt, he'd protected her privacy and defended her publicly. "You okay, honey?" asked Marie, the other waitress. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Something like that." Elena went back to taking orders and pouring coffee, but her mind was spinning. Adrian had actually done it, restructured an entire corporation's pay system. How many people would benefit from that? How many families would no longer struggle like hers had? When her shift ended, Elena found herself walking past Cross Industries. Through the lobby windows, she could see a banner. "Now hiring, competitive wages, full benefits, educational assistance available." Her phone, still turned off, had 17 voicemails when she finally powered it on. 16 were from numbers she didn't recognize. One was from Dr. Martinez at the hospital. "Miss Rodriguez, this is unusual, but an anonymous donor has established a treatment fund specifically for your mother's case. All costs are covered, and we can begin immediately. Please call to discuss details." Elena sank onto her apartment steps, phone shaking in her hands. Anonymous donor? Right. She wanted to be angry, wanted to call Adrian and scream at him for going behind her back. But sitting there, holding the phone that contained news that could save her mother's life, Elena felt something crack inside her chest. Love. This was what love looked like when you had the power to act on it. The question was, could she forgive him for loving her enough to lie? And could she live with herself if pride cost her mother everything? Elena stared at the hospital's number on her phone screen and realized that hating Adrian Cross was a luxury she might not be able to afford, even if forgiving him might destroy her all over again. Elena spent 3 sleepless nights staring at Dr. Martinez's voicemail before finally calling the hospital back. "Miss Rodriguez, thank you for calling. The donor has covered not just the experimental treatment, but any additional care your mother might need. Physical therapy, follow-up treatments, everything." Did the donor leave any conditions, any strings attached?" None whatsoever. In fact, they specifically requested that you never be contacted by them regarding the donation. Complete anonymity was a requirement. Elena closed her eyes. Even in his guilt money, Adrian was protecting her from feeling obligated to him. When can we start treatment? Tomorrow, if you'd like. Elena sat with her mother in the oncology ward, watching the new treatment drip into her IV. Maria Rodriguez looked better already, just knowing she had a chance. Mija, this anonymous donor, do you know who it is? Elena had told her mother nothing about Adrian, nothing about the CEO who'd broken her heart and saved their lives in the same week. Does it matter, Mama? It matters to me that someone cared enough about my daughter to give us hope. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Someone cared enough about my daughter. That evening, Elena found herself walking past Cross Industries again. The security guard she recognized from her late nights with Adrian was at the front desk. Miss Rodriguez? He looked surprised. Are you here to see? No, Elena stared at the elevator that would take her to Adrian's real office. How is he? The guard's face softened. Not good, miss. Works all hours, barely eats. Heard he hasn't left the building in 3 days. Elena's chest tightened. Oh, you want me to call up? Let him know you're here? No, tell me about the changes. The employee fund, is it real? Real as rain. My daughter got a scholarship for nursing school. Single mothers like her, they never caught breaks before. Now they got childcare assistance, education funds, emergency loans. The guard smiled. Man changed everything overnight. For how many people? Every Cross Industries location worldwide. Thousands of families, Miss Rodriguez. All because he saw what it was really like to work for regular wages. Elena felt tears pricking her eyes. He saw what it was really like. Heard he fell in love with someone who showed him what real life looked like, made him want to be better. Made him want to be better. The words echoed in Elena's head as she walked home. 2 days later, Elena was leaving the diner after another double shift when she saw him. Adrian sat in his car across the street, not trying to hide, just watching, making sure she was safe. Their eyes met through the windshield. Elena's heart hammered, but she didn't approach. Neither did he. After a long moment, Adrian started his car and drove away. It became a pattern. Elena would finish work and find Adrian somewhere nearby, not approaching, not trying to talk, just ensuring she made it home safely. Her pride said to confront him, to tell him to stop. Her heart said he looked as broken as she felt. A breaking point came when Elena overheard 2 women at the diner talking about Cross Industries. My husband got promoted finally, one said. New management actually looks at performance instead of politics, plus they're paying for his certification program. I heard the CEO went undercover as a janitor to catch the crooks, like something out of a movie. Nah, I heard it was because he fell for some girl who worked there, wanted to understand what her life was really like. Elena's coffee cup rattled against the table. Either way, my cousin works in their Chicago office, says morale's completely different now. People actually matter. That night, Elena finally called the number she'd been avoiding for 2 weeks. Elena? Adrian answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. Don't talk, just listen. Elena's voice was steadier than she felt. Thank you. For my mother's treatment, for clearing my name, for changing the company so other people won't go through what I did. Elena, I said don't talk. I'm not calling to forgive you. I'm not calling to get back together. I'm calling because what you did mattered. To my mom, to all those employees, to their families. It mattered. Adrian's voice was rough. You matter. You've always mattered. Do I? Or did I just matter because I was your inspiration, your reality check? You matter because you're brilliant and strong and beautiful, and you made me want to be worthy of you. Elena closed her eyes against the pain in his voice. Elena, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I fucked up everything between us. But please know that loving you was the realest thing that ever happened to me. Was? The question slipped out before Elena could stop it. Is. Loving you is the realest thing that ever happened to me. Elena's breath caught. Adrian, I'm not asking for another chance. I'm not asking you to trust me again. I just needed you to know that when I said I loved you, that was never a lie." The line went quiet, except for their breathing. "The fund for my mother," Elena said finally. "No strings attached? None, ever. And the company changes? Permanent, board approved, can't be reversed even if I wanted to, which I don't." Elena bit her lip. "Why?" "Because you were right. About everything. About the company, about the employees, about me and being a privileged asshole who thought money could fix anything. Can't it? It can fix systems. It can fix injustices. It can save lives." Adrian's voice dropped. "But it can't fix the fact that I broke your trust. It can't fix the fact that I hurt the woman I love more than anything in this world." Elena felt tears running down her cheeks. "Adrian, I should let you go. I miss you, Elena. I miss talking to you, laughing with you, holding you. I miss the way you made me feel like I could be better than I am. You are better. What you did for those employees proves that. Only because you showed me how." Elena stared at her ceiling, heartbreaking all over again. Because the truth was, she missed him too. Missed his laugh, his touch, the way he looked at her like she was his entire world. But missing someone and trusting them again were two very different things. "I have to go," she whispered. "Elena, wait. I'm glad you're better, Adrian. I'm glad you're helping people. But I can't. I'm not ready. I'll wait. Don't put your life on hold for something that might never happen." "Too late," Adrian said softly. "You already are my life." Elena hung up before she could say something stupid like, "You're mine too." But as she lay in bed that night, Elena couldn't stop thinking about a man who'd loved her enough to change an entire corporate empire, and whether some betrayals might be worth forgiving after all. Elena stood in the sterile hospital corridor, watching her mother sleep peacefully for the first time in months. The experimental treatment was working, slowly, but working. Dr. Martinez had been cautiously optimistic at their last appointment. "The tumor markers are decreasing," he'd said. "Whatever's in that treatment protocol, it's exactly what she needed." Elena knew what was in it: hope, paid for by a man she was trying desperately not to love anymore. "Mija?" Her mother's voice was weak, but clearer than it had been in weeks. "You look tired." "I'm fine, Mama." Elena sat beside the bed, taking her mother's hand. "You're not fine. You haven't been fine since..." Maria studied her daughter's face. "Since you met someone." Elena's breath caught. "What makes you think..." "A mother knows. There's a sadness in your eyes that only comes from losing love." "I didn't lose anything. I found out it was never real." "Was it?" Maria's knowing look made Elena squirm. "Or are you too proud to see what's right in front of you?" Before Elena could answer, a soft knock interrupted them. A woman in an expensive suit stood in the doorway, holding an enormous flower arrangement. "I'm sorry to disturb you. I'm Sarah Chen from Cross Industries. Mr. Cross asked me to deliver these with his wishes for Mrs. Rodriguez's speedy recovery." Elena stiffened. "He promised no contact." "This isn't contact," Sarah said gently. "These flowers are from the Employee Wellness Initiative. Every family member receiving treatment through our hardship fund gets them. It's company policy now." She set the flowers down and handed Elena an envelope. "This is also policy. A card from the initiative. Nothing personal." After Sarah left, Elena stared at the envelope. "Employee Wellness Initiative," she read aloud. "Open it," Maria urged. Inside was a simple card. "Wishing you strength, hope, and healing. The Cross Industries family." But clipped to it was a small piece of paper in Adrian's handwriting. "Your daughter is the strongest person I know. She gets it from you." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "He knows about me," Maria said softly. "I never told him your name or what hospital. But he found out anyway, because that's what people do when they love someone. They pay attention." Elena crumpled the note, then smoothed it out again. "It doesn't matter. He lied to me for weeks. Why? What? Why did he lie? To hurt you? To use you?" Elena opened her mouth, then closed it. To investigate the company. And after the investigation, he kept lying because..." Elena's voice trailed off. "Because telling the truth would have ruined what you had together," Maria finished. Because he was afraid of losing you. That's not an excuse. No, it's not, but it's human. Maria squeezed Elena's hand. Mija, I've been dying, really dying. And you know what I've learned? Life is too short to throw away love because it came wrapped in the wrong package. Elena stared at the flowers, not roses or lilies, but sunflowers, her favorite, a detail she'd mentioned once, months ago, in passing. He remembered, she whispered. That evening, Elena found herself walking through the park where she and Adrian had shared their first real conversation about dreams and futures. She'd been trying to avoid places that reminded her of him, but tonight she needed to think. Elena? She turned to find Adrian standing 20 feet away, looking uncertain and hopeful and terrified all at once. Are you following me? But there was no anger in her voice. I come here sometimes, to remember. He stepped closer carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. How's your mother? Better, much better. Elena studied his face. He looked thinner, tired, but his eyes lit up at her words. I'm glad, really glad. They stood in awkward silence until Elena said, Sunflowers. What? The flowers you sent. Sunflowers are my favorite. Adrian's mouth curved in the ghost of a smile. You mentioned it once. We were eating Chinese takeout in your apartment, and you said your mother used to grow sunflowers in their tiny backyard in Mexico. Elena's chest tightened. You remember. I remember everything about you, Elena. Every conversation, every laugh, every time you bit your lip when you were thinking. His voice dropped. Every time you said you loved me. Adrian, I know I don't deserve another chance. I know trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. But Elena, I need you to know. Every feeling, every moment between us was real. The only lie was my name and my job. Everything else was truth. Elena looked into those green eyes that had haunted her dreams. How do I know that? How do I know you're not just saying what you think I want to hear? Because I'm not asking for anything. I'm not asking you to forgive me or take me back or even speak to me again. I'm just asking you to know that you changed me, permanently. You made me see that love isn't about what you can provide for someone. It's about what they inspire you to become. A tear rolled down Elena's cheek. You broke my heart. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life regretting that. The rest of your life? However long that is, yes. Elena stared at him, seeing not the billionaire CEO, but the man who'd held her while she cried, who'd brought her food when she was hungry, who'd looked at her like she was his entire world. I have to go, she said finally. Adrian's face fell, but he nodded. Of course. Thank you for listening. As Elena walked away, she heard him call softly, Elena, I love you. I'll always love you. She didn't turn around, but she didn't run either, and for the first time in 3 weeks, that felt like progress. Elena couldn't stop thinking about Adrian's words. For 3 days, she replayed their conversation in the park, dissecting every inflection, every pause, every moment his voice had cracked with emotion. The breaking point came when she visited her mother and found her sitting up in bed, looking stronger than she had in months. The doctors say I can go home next week, Maria announced, beaming. Full remission isn't guaranteed, but the prognosis is good, very good. Elena felt tears of relief flood her eyes. Mama, that's incredible. Yes, it is. Maria took her daughter's hands, and we both know who made it possible. The anonymous donor, Adrian Cross. Maria's voice was gentle but firm. I know, Mija. I've known for weeks. Elena's breath caught. How? Because I asked. When someone saves your life, you want to know who they are. Maria smiled sadly. And because I see how you look when you think no one's watching. You love him. I loved a lie. Did you? Or did you love a man who was so terrified of losing you that he made terrible choices? Elena pulled her hands away. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I understand fear and pride and the way love makes us do stupid things." Maria's voice grew stronger. "I also understand that man didn't just pay for my treatment, he restructured his entire company because you showed him what real struggle looks like. How many families are better off because he fell in love with you? How many women won't have to choose between rent and medicine because Adrian Cross learned to see through your eyes? That doesn't excuse the lies. No, it doesn't, but it proves his love was real. Lies born from fear are different from lies born from malice, mija." That evening, Elena found herself standing outside Cross Industries again, but this time, instead of walking away, she went inside. "Miss Rodriguez?" The security guard looked shocked. Are you here to see?" "Yes, is he here?" "23rd floor, but miss, he's not the same man who left here 3 weeks ago. The guilt is eating him alive." Elena's heart clenched as the elevator climbed. She'd imagined this moment 100 times, but now that it was real, she had no idea what she'd say. The 23rd floor was eerily quiet. Elena found Adrian in his office, slumped over his desk, surrounded by papers and empty coffee cups. He looked up when she knocked, and the hope that flashed across his face nearly broke her heart. "Elena?" He stood slowly, like he couldn't believe she was real. "Hi." They stared at each other across the expensive office that represented everything Elena had thought she hated about him. "My mother's in remission," she said finally. "I heard. I'm so glad." Adrian's voice was careful, restrained. "Because of you. Because of the doctors. Because of you." Elena stepped closer. "The treatment, the care, the fact that she's alive. Because of you." Adrian's jaw tightened. "I didn't do it for gratitude." "I know." Elena's voice was soft. "You did it because you love me." The words hung between them like a bridge neither was sure they could cross. "Elena," Adrian's voice was raw, "I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry for lying to you, for deceiving you, for making you question everything we had together. I know you are. Do you? Because I need you to know that every single day since you left, I've regretted not telling you the truth. Not because I lost you, but because I hurt you. I know you are. Do you? Because I need you to know that every single day since you left, I've regretted not telling you the truth. Not because I lost you, but because I hurt you." Elena felt tears building. "You did hurt me, badly. I know. But you also saved my mother's life. You changed thousands of people's lives. You became the man I always believed you could be." Adrian stepped closer, hope warring with caution in his eyes. "What are you saying?" Elena took a shaky breath. "I'm saying I've been thinking about forgiveness, about second chances, about whether love is strong enough to survive broken trust. And I don't know yet." Elena's voice cracked. "I want to forgive you, Adrian. I want to believe we can fix this, but I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of being wrong about you again. Of letting my guard down only to discover there are more lies, more secrets." Elena wiped her eyes. "Of loving you so much that I lose myself again." Adrian closed the distance between them, stopping just inches away. "Elena, look at me." She raised her eyes to his. "I will never lie to you again, ever, about anything. Even if the truth hurts, even if it's inconvenient, even if it costs me everything. You have my word." "How do I know your word means anything?" "Because I'm not the same man who made those choices. You changed me, Elena. You made me better. And I swear to you, on my mother's grave, on everything I hold sacred, I will spend the rest of my life proving that you can trust me again." Elena searched his face, seeing sincerity and desperation, and love so fierce it took her breath away. "I missed you," she whispered. "God, I missed you too." Adrian's hands came up to frame her face. "Every second of every day. Adrian, I love you, Elena Rodriguez. I love your strength, your intelligence, your compassion. I love the way you make me want to be worthy of you. And if you'll let me, I'll spend forever making up for the time I wasted lying when I should have been loving you honestly." Elena felt the last of her walls crumble. "I love you too. I never stopped loving you." When Adrian kissed her, it tasted like forgiveness and new beginnings, like coming home after being lost in the dark. "So what happens now?" Elena asked against his lips. "Now I prove that you made the right choice trusting me again." "And how do you plan to do that?" Adrian smiled, that devastating, slightly wicked smile that had captured her heart in a waiting room months ago. "I have a few ideas, starting with offering you a job." "Adrian, not because you're my girlfriend, because you're brilliant and this company needs someone like you." Operations Director, your own department, full authority to implement the changes you've been talking about since day one. Elena stared at him. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. What do you say, Miss Rodriguez? Ready to help me change the world?" Elena thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The lies, the pain, the broken trust slowly rebuilding itself. Then she thought about the future they could build together, professionally and personally. "I have conditions," she said. "Name them." "Complete transparency, in business and in life. No more secrets, no matter how small." "Done. And if this doesn't work out between us personally, it doesn't affect my job." "Elena, it's going to work out." "How can you be so sure?" Adrian's smile softened into something tender and certain. "Because we're not the same people who fell in love in that waiting room. We're better, stronger. We've been tested by lies and betrayal, and we're still here, still fighting for each other." Elena felt hope bloom in her chest for the first time in weeks. "So we're really doing this? Taking another chance? If you'll have me." Elena stood on her toes and kissed him, pouring weeks of pain and love and forgiveness into the connection between them. "Yes," she whispered against his lips, "let's change the world together." 6 months later, Elena stood in the same conference room where she'd once answered phones, but now she was leading the quarterly operations review. The transformation was remarkable, not just in her life, but in the entire company culture. Employee satisfaction is up 47%, Elena reported to the board. Productivity has increased, turnover has dropped to historic lows, and our scholarship program has helped over 200 employees advance their education. Adrian watched from his seat at the head of the table, pride radiating from every line of his body. She was magnificent, confident, articulate, every inch the executive she'd always been meant to be. "Outstanding work, Director Rodriguez," board member Patricia Wells said. "These results exceed our most optimistic projections." After the meeting, Adrian cornered Elena in her office, a spacious corner suite with windows overlooking the city. "How does it feel?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Surreal. 6 months ago, I was answering phones and worrying about rent. Now I'm restructuring international operations." "You were always capable of this. You just needed the opportunity." Elena leaned back against his chest. "And someone who believed in me. I'll always believe in you." Their relationship had been a careful rebuilding process. Adrian had kept his promise about transparency, sometimes brutally so. He'd shown Elena his financial records, his business dealings, even his therapy sessions with a counselor who helped him understand his privilege and how to use it responsibly. Elena had moved slowly, testing his honesty at every turn. But gradually, trust had rebuilt itself into something stronger than before. "How's your mother?" Adrian asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Scan came back clean again. Dr. Martinez says we're looking at full remission." Elena's voice still held wonder. "She wants to meet you officially, as my boyfriend, not as the anonymous donor." "I'd like that." "She's making her famous tamales. Fair warning, she'll grill you about your intentions." Adrian spun Elena around to face him. "My intentions are pretty serious." Something in his tone made Elena's heart skip. "How serious?" Instead of answering, Adrian dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Elena's hands flew to her mouth. "Elena Rodriguez," Adrian said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. 6 months ago, you taught me that love isn't about what you can give someone, it's about what they inspire you to become. You made me want to be worthy of you. Adrian, you're brilliant, compassionate, strong enough to forgive when forgiveness seemed impossible. You're my partner in business and in life, and I can't imagine a future without you in it." Elena felt tears streaming down her cheeks. Will you marry me? Will you let me love you honestly for the rest of our lives? Elena stared at the ring, beautiful but not ostentatious, exactly what she would have chosen, then at the man who'd broken her heart and put it back together stronger than before. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course yes. The ring slid onto her finger perfectly as Adrian stood and kissed her with 6 months' worth of pent-up love and relief. I love you, Elena said against his lips. I love the man you've become. I love the man you're still becoming. I love you too, more than I ever thought possible. So what happens now? Elena asked, the same question she'd posed 6 months ago in this very building. Now we plan a wedding, build a life together, keep changing the world, one employee at a time. Elena laughed. Just like that? Just like that. Adrian's smile was pure happiness. Unless you have other plans. Just one. Elena pulled him closer. I want to finish what we started in that supply closet. Adrian's eyes darkened with desire. Miss Rodriguez, that's highly inappropriate workplace behavior. Good thing I'm the operations director. I make the rules now. And what do the rules say about CEOs who are completely crazy about their fiancés? That they're extremely good for company morale. As Adrian kissed her again, Elena marveled at the journey that had brought them here. From a waiting room where she'd been desperate for any job, to an executive suite where she was reshaping corporate policy. From falling for a lie to building a love based on complete truth. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Mija, the news is reporting that Cross Industries just became the first Fortune 500 company to guarantee living wages globally. I'm proud of you both. Elena showed Adrian the message. Think we're making a difference? I know we are. But more importantly, we're happy, really, truly happy. Elena looked at her ring, sparkling in the afternoon sunlight streaming through her office windows. You know what the best part is? What? We earned this. Not the money or the success. We earned each other. We fought for this love, chose it even when it was hard, rebuilt it when it seemed impossible. That's why it's going to last forever. Forever? Adrian cupped her face in his hands. Elena Cross has a nice ring to it, don't you think? Elena's smile was radiant. I love the sound of that. As they kissed in the office where their love story had begun with lies and was now being written in truth, Elena knew that some fairy tales were worth the fight, some princes were worth forgiving, and some love stories were strong enough to survive anything, even the truth. The end. True love doesn't mean perfection. It means choosing each other, again and again, especially when it's hard. Elena and Adrian learned that the most beautiful relationships aren't built on fantasy, but on the courage to be real with each other, to grow together, and to believe that love is worth fighting for.
Your heart knows the way. Subscribe and follow the beauty.